Cobra Kai Season 6 is coming, and thus I am watching all of the episodes to lead up to it, and I just finished Cobra Kai Season 2, and I want to give you my thoughts on it. Welcome if you are new. We talk about all kinds of stuff here. Movies, TV shows. We talk about video games from time to time. It is World of Geekdom. So I want to discuss sort of prior to watching Season 2 what I was told, and I was told that Season 1 is the most grounded, and even that has a couple of things that are right out of like the 1980s. Season 2 starts to kind of go down this slippery slope where things become more and more goofy and wacky and almost cartoonish. And from the onset, I was going into it expecting it to be a little bit less serious and a little bit more perhaps on the fictional route, but I didn't think that within the first 3 minutes of the first episode of Season 2, it would get like this. John Krese getting into that fight in the middle of the dojo with Johnny was so unexpected. It was so, I mean, again, it was like something out of the 1980s. And when I saw that John Krese appeared at the very end of Season 1, the creator of Cobra Kai, the master from the older movies, you know, my thing was, oh, this is already going to get totally goofy because John Krese as a character is an 80s villain. And in every personification, he's a big cartoon character, over-exaggerated faces, too evil than any normal civilian should be, although there are some out there that are, and just over the top. And really, the story of Season 2 was sort of honoring the past while paving the way for the future. There was a lot more of honoring Miyagi and honoring what he meant to Daniel's life. There were scenes sprinkled throughout the season that really show what he meant to Daniel's life. And on the other side, you have John Krese returning to Cobra Kai, and he starts to poison the well from within. And while that's going on, Johnny Lawrence, who is the main character, is kind of slowly turning from the dark to the light. He's starting to understand the idea of mercy might not be so bad. He's starting to understand that there are things going on around him that he doesn't even know about. And so Cobra Kai within and of itself starts to splinter off into these different factions, and I found all that stuff interesting. What I wasn't expecting, although I think part of me was, is how we'd have like all of this sort of, I call this show with this season the Melrose Place with karate. This is Melrose Place with fighting, because it really became sort of this, you know, these love triangles and you know, the twists of where the love story was going to go and who was going to hook up with who. That became sort of the B plot, and in some episodes the A plot of the season. I'm not sure if this was done purposely to bring in more of a female audience, since, you know, women tend to be gravitated more towards that type of drama as opposed to the kung fu. This is from demographic numbers and things like that. Or if they just wanted to tell an interesting story with these characters. But it definitely got to where there were a few things this season where I just said, okay, this is a bit much, this is a bit far, but I'm still with it, because even the original Karate Kid movie had things that were, you know, 80s schlock. I think that's part of what makes the show fun. Now, I don't know where we're going to go after Season 2, but Season 2 definitely started leaning more into what the Karate Kid franchise sort of started with. I really was surprised as to some of the characters that got the spotlight for Season 2. For example, even though he was a supporting character in the first season, he really came into his own, and that's the character of Hawk. I mean, I was not expecting him to have this drastic of a character change, and yes, he did have somewhat of an arc in the previous season, but he's all over this second season, and in some ways kind of has the third plot, you know, third overarching plot of the story. And, you know, as I'm watching this show, I have to remember that this show was kind of created by comedians. And there was a lot of great comedy here, lots of fish out of water comedy. Like, for example, Johnny trying to learn about the internet and learn about apps, and he learns about a dating app and goes on some dates, and he has no idea how to conduct himself or what certain words mean. It almost feels like Johnny has been away from technology for decades, and it's similar to how like almost like he's been in his own sort of mental time capsule, and his brain missed all the things that changed throughout the years. That's how it is. But the acting is just great. Like, there's so much great storytelling, and I really like that subplot of members of Cobra Kai trashing the Miyagi dojo, like that, and that whole like Daniel blames Johnny, like that was all good stuff carrying the middle of the season, and it sort of made sense, that rivalry that started with just Johnny drawing a dick on the billboard with Daniel on it has gone to like a new level, and it's it all built up relatively well to the final few episodes, because when Johnny finds out, maybe not fully, but he finds out that Krese is maybe not, maybe he kind of grew out of what he used to be, and we learn more about Johnny's past as well, and maybe John Krese ain't the great guy he thought he was, and he thought that maybe he had changed, but I guess not. And the episode second to last, where Daniel and Johnny kind of, because of the women they were with, sort of stopped being so knuckleheaded and end up being brought down to reality and finding commonalities. Just that on its own was definitely satisfying. It was definitely a satisfying moment that was built up from all the way at the beginning of the show. But good things are just not meant to last, because in the next episode, everything goes to hell because of the consequences of the drinking and all those things that were going on at that big party. And the season finale of this show, like, okay, it really went down. This really went down unrealistic territory, and I feel like I'm gonna have to accept it now, because if I don't, it's gonna ruin the rest of the show for me. And I'm being dead serious. It was so over the top. The fight between Daniel and Johnny was already like going from 0 to 10 as far as the realism goes, because they just started brawling, and that's not really how things would go down. It was kind of a stalemate fight. And then, of course, all of the things that happen at the party lead into the big school rumble in the final episode of the season. This was very hard to... While I enjoyed the choreography and things like that, it was very hard to buy it, because going over the PA system and the big brawl going on in the school, dude, if this were even remotely real, there would be teachers out there already trying to break it up. Like, they would actually be trying to break it up, not even by putting their hands, just by yelling at them to stop fighting. And we didn't see that. We didn't see the school resource officer pop up during the early parts. Like, it was hard to swallow, bro. I'm just being real with you. I know some people are going to look at that, you got to remember it's a TV show. And it is. It's not like it's more fictional than Game of Thrones or something like that with dragons and stuff like that. It's not that type of thing, but it just... Dude, I've seen a lot of fights break out in schools, and I've even seen a rumble break out once. It wasn't as big as this one. The one I saw only had like maybe 9 people in it, which is still a lot. But cops and resource officers broke up the fight relatively quickly, within like 4 minutes. This type of stuff just doesn't happen in the real world. What ends up happening is Miguel gets injured in the fight, and this leads to the big revelation near the end where Johnny finds that Krese has taken back Cobra Kai, and that he is in charge again, and all his students are with him, even though Miguel's in the hospital. And everything's falling apart because of the fact that there's all this, chicanery with, like, the kissing, and she kissed the other guy, and he gave the key, and all these, like, sort of interesting subplots that built up to the finale. But the finale, I think, took it way over the top. I really did think it did. And from what I've been told, it gets even goofier later on. I don't know, but this was pretty damn goofy. I don't even think the first Karate Kid movie would have done something like this. I think they're really going above and beyond here with this finale. The big twist at the end, though, is that the girl from the first film, Allie, actually accepts the friend request of Johnny, and they have history. So that is your teaser for season 3. But I'm still interested. I'm interested in what Allie's gonna do and what's gonna happen with all these relationships and Daniel's daughter, and there's a lot of cool storylines here happening. But oh man, the suspension of disbelief just kind of went out the window. So I'm going to try to like sort of reframe my brain a bit and try to get back into, okay, this is a fictional TV show mode. But I mean, you know, when you create a universe and you create a certain set of rules within that universe, fictional universe, whether it be anything from Harry Potter to anime, they all have their own little universes, to video games, you're willing to accept things that happen if they follow the rules of that said universe. However, that is not the case here, because I think it did go a bit far. So season 1 probably was more realistic, but I still had fun with season 2, mostly because of the characters and the comedy. And also, I think the soundtrack to Cobra Kai season 2, I think the soundtrack, I dropped my back scratcher if you heard a noise there. I think the soundtrack to this, actually the both seasons, is criminally underrated. There were a lot of really great songs played all throughout these episodes, from different decades and whatnot, and it really is a testament to the taste. But season 2 was fun, right? Season 1 was written better, I think, more logically, but season 2 did great things with the characters. And had some funny moments and also introduced new characters. I mean, seeing what happened to Hawk at the end, I mean, I bet that's not the end of that story. So we'll see where it goes. Season 3 is next. I got to see if I can watch all of these by the time season 6 starts. If I can't, I'll just start season 6 late, because I know they're splitting them up like in 5-episode chunks. I don't want to have to do that. I want to cover them as they come out here, but I may not be able to, because I still got like, Jesus, 3 more seasons left, and that's 30 episodes, and that's a lot. And I usually don't like binge content like that, although sometimes I can and I have. Maybe I'll try. So those are my thoughts on Cobra Kai season 2. What do you think? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were initially and what you think now.